The $847 million mistake no one saw coming. A 30-year-old billionaire. A bankruptcy filing that shook Wall Street. And one janitor who refused to stay quiet. When Ava Caldwell's empire collapsed overnight, the world watched a young woman lose everything her father had built. The auditors had spoken. The board had voted. The company was finished. But in a fluorescent-lit hallway at 11 p.m., a single father mopping floors found something that would change everything. A number that didn't belong. One digit, one error, one voice no one thought to listen to. Stay until the end, like this video. Comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. The conference room on the 42nd floor smelled like expensive coffee and defeat. Ava Caldwell sat at the head of the table, her hands folded in front of her, watching 12 faces avoid her eyes. Outside, the Chicago skyline glittered in the October dusk, indifferent to the carnage happening inside this room. She'd turned 30 last month. Her father had turned this company over to her when she was 26, and now, 4 years later, she was about to become the youngest billionaire in America to file for Chapter 11. The vote is unanimous, Gerald Hartwick said. He was her CFO, 62 years old, with silver hair and a voice like gravel. He'd worked for her father for 30 years. I'm sorry, Ava. There's no other option. Ava didn't respond. She was staring at the projection on the wall, rows and columns of red numbers, each one a wound, each one bleeding the company dry. Caldwell Industries manufactured precision components for aerospace and medical devices. Her father had started it in a garage in 1982. By the time he died 3 years ago, it employed 14,000 people across 6 states. Now it employed ghosts. When do we announce? Someone asked. Ava couldn't even tell who anymore. The voices had become a blur. Tomorrow morning, Hartwick said. Legal has the press release ready. We'll file with the court by noon. Ava looked down at her hands. She wore her father's watch, a beat-up Timex he'd bought at a gas station in 1985 and never replaced, even when he could afford a Rolex. The watch crystal was scratched to hell. She could barely read the time through it. Ava? She looked up. It was Melissa Torres, the head of operations. Melissa had 2 kids in middle school. Her husband taught high school chemistry. Ava knew because Melissa talked about them constantly, proud in that quiet way people are when they've built something real. Are you okay? Melissa asked. No, Ava said. It was the first honest thing she'd said all day. The meeting ended. People filed out, murmuring condolences that sounded like eulogies. Hartwick lingered by the door. Your father would understand, he said. Ava stood up, gathered her notebook and phone. My father would have found a way. Your father didn't face a market like this. My father faced worse. Hartwick sighed. He looked old suddenly, older than 62. You did everything you could. Ava walked past him without answering. The elevator ride down felt like falling. 42 floors of polished steel in silence. Ava watched the numbers descend, each one a countdown to the end of everything. When the doors opened on the lobby level, she stepped out into chaos. Word had already leaked. Employees clustered in small groups, some crying, some angry, some just staring at their phones in shock. Security guards stood near the exits, uncertain and uncomfortable. The marble lobby that had always felt grand now felt like a mausoleum. Ava walked through it quickly, head down, aiming for the side exit. She didn't want to see their faces, didn't want to hear the questions she couldn't answer. Ms. Caldwell? She kept walking. Ms. Caldwell, is it true? A young woman from accounting, maybe 25. Ava couldn't remember her name. She stopped, turned. Yes, Ava said. It's true. The woman's face crumpled. What happens to us? I don't know yet. HR will have information tomorrow. Tomorrow? That's it? Just tomorrow? Ava felt something crack inside her chest. I'm sorry. She turned and walked faster, pushing through the glass doors into the cold October air. Behind her, she heard someone say, "She doesn't even care." The words followed her to her car. Ava sat in the parking garage for 20 minutes, engine running, heat on, going nowhere. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing, texts, calls, emails, all of them wanting something she didn't have. Answers, hope. A miracle. She thought about her father. Thomas Caldwell had died of a heart attack at his desk on a Tuesday morning. Ava had found him. He'd been reviewing production schedules, pen still in his hand, reading glasses askew. The paramedics said he probably didn't feel anything. Ava didn't believe that. Her father felt everything. He taught her the business from the ground up. Summers in high school, she'd worked the factory floor, wearing steel-toed boots and learning to operate the CNC machines. Weekends in college, she'd shadowed him through board meetings, learning to read balance sheets and call bullshit when executives tried to hide bad news in jargon. Numbers don't lie, he used to say. People do. Trust the numbers. Ava had trusted the numbers. The numbers said her company was dying. She put the car in gear and drove home. Her apartment was in River North, 36th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It cost more per month than most people made in a year. She'd bought it because her father would have hated it. Too flashy, too impractical, too much. She'd bought it to prove she wasn't him. Now she walked through the door and dropped her bag on the marble counter and felt nothing but the echo. The place was immaculate. She paid a cleaning service to come twice a week. They left everything perfect, pillows arranged, surfaces gleaming, not a dish out of place. It looked like a hotel room. It felt like one, too. Ava poured herself a glass of scotch and stood at the window, watching the city lights blur through the glass. Her phone rang. She ignored it. It rang again and again. Finally, she looked. Hartwick. She answered. What? There's been a leak to the press, he said. Wall Street Journal has it. They're running the story in an hour. Fine. Ava, you need to prepare a statement. You prepare it. I'm done for tonight. This is your company. Is it? Ava laughed, sharp and bitter. Because it feels like it's everybody's company except mine. You all voted. You all decided. So you all can handle the press. She hung up. The phone buzzed again immediately, a text this time. She looked at it without meaning to. From Mom. Are you okay? Ava's mother lived in Arizona now, remarried to a dentist who played golf and collected vintage cars. She'd left when Ava was 16, a year after her father mortgaged the house to keep the company afloat. Some people aren't built for uncertainty, her mother had said. I need stability. Ava typed back. I'm fine. She wasn't fine. She sat on the couch and drank the scotch and tried not to think about tomorrow. About the press conference, about the employees who would lose their jobs, about the suppliers who would go under when Caldwell Industries stopped paying its bills, about the legacy her father had built, brick by brick, now collapsing like a house of cards. The worst part was knowing she'd done everything right. She'd hired the best consultants, followed every recommendation, cut costs, streamlined operations, diversified revenue streams. She'd worked 90-hour weeks for 4 years straight. She'd sacrificed relationships, friendships, sleep, sanity. And it hadn't mattered. The market had shifted. Supply chains had collapsed. Competitors in Asia had undercut them on price while matching them on quality. The numbers didn't lie. The company was hemorrhaging cash and there was no stopping it. Trust the numbers, her father had said. The numbers said she'd failed. Ava closed her eyes and let the scotch burn down her throat and waited for tomorrow to come destroy her. Tomorrow came. She woke at 5 a.m., showered, dressed in the navy suit she wore to board meetings. Professional. Unshakable. A costume. The press conference was scheduled for 9. By 8, the Caldwell Industries lobby was swarming with cameras and reporters, all of them hungry for blood. Ava watched from the second-floor mezzanine, hidden behind a concrete pillar, feeling like a coward. You ready? Hartwick appeared beside her, holding 2 coffees. He offered her one. She took it. No. You'll be fine. Stick to the script. Don't answer questions about blame or mismanagement. Just express regret and commitment to the employees. Commitment to what? We're firing them all. Not all of them. Some will stay through restructuring. How generous. Hartwick sighed. Ava, I know this is hard. Don't. Your father. Don't, Ava said again, sharper. Don't tell me what my father would say or think or do. He's not here. I am. And I'm the one who has to stand down there and admit I destroyed everything he built. Hartwick looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay. They stood in silence, watching the chaos below. There's something else, Hartwick said quietly. The auditors want to meet this afternoon. They're doing a final review of the filings before we submit to the court. Why? Everything's already been reviewed a dozen times. Standard procedure. Fine. Whatever. At 8:45, Ava descended the stairs to the lobby. The cameras swung toward her like predators catching a scent. Microphones bristled. Voices shouted questions. She stepped up to the podium, adjusted the microphone, and looked out at the sea of faces. "Good morning," she said. Her voice sounded steadier than she felt. "Thank you for coming. I'll make a brief statement, and then I'll take a few questions." She glanced down at the paper in front of her, the script Hartwick had prepared. 3 paragraphs of corporate speak, carefully crafted to say nothing while sounding sincere. She looked back up at the cameras. "Caldwell Industries filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection this morning," she said. "This was an incredibly difficult decision, but after extensive analysis and consultation with our board and financial advisors, we determined it was the only viable path forward." Someone shouted a question. She ignored it. "Our priority now is to support our employees during this transition and to work with our creditors to restructure the company's obligations. We are committed to transparency and accountability throughout this process." More shouting, more questions. She picked one at random. "Ms. Caldwell, do you take personal responsibility for the company's failure?" The reporter was a woman, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and a voice that cut through the noise. Ava met her gaze. "Yes, I'm the CEO. The responsibility is mine." "Do you plan to resign?" "No, I plan to see this through." "How many jobs will be lost?" "We don't have final numbers yet." "Estimates?" Ava hesitated. Hartwick had told her not to answer this. But standing there looking at the faces in the crowd, not just reporters but employees who'd come to hear their fate, she couldn't hide behind corporate language anymore. "Approximately 8,000 positions will be eliminated," she said. The lobby erupted. Shouts, gasps, someone crying. Ava felt the weight of those words like a physical thing pressing down on her chest. She answered 3 more questions, each one harder than the last, and then Hartwick stepped in and ended the conference. Security escorted her back upstairs while the reporter shouted after her. In the elevator, Hartwick looked furious. "You weren't supposed to give them numbers." "They deserve to know. It's going to be a PR nightmare." "It's already a nightmare, Gerald. At least now it's an honest one." The elevator doors opened. Ava walked to her office and closed the door. Whoa. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of conference calls and damage control. By noon, the story had gone national. Social media was eviscerating her. The hashtag Caldwell collapse was trending. People she'd never met were calling her incompetent, entitled, a failure who'd squandered her father's legacy. They weren't wrong. At 2 p.m., her assistant buzzed. "The auditors are here." Ava stood, smoothed her jacket, walked to the conference room. 3 men in suits sat around the table, laptops open, papers spread out. They stood when she entered. "Ms. Caldwell," the lead auditor said. His name was Patterson, late 50s, with the kind of face that never smiled. "Thank you for meeting with us." "What's this about?" "Just routine verification before the final filing. We want to make sure all the documentation is in order." They spent 90 minutes going through spreadsheets, comparing figures, cross-referencing accounts. Ava's eyes glazed over. She'd been through this process so many times in the past 6 months that the numbers had stopped meaning anything. Finally, Patterson closed his laptop. "Everything appears to be in order. We'll submit our final report to the court by end of business." "That's it?" "That's it." Ava stood. "Then we're done here." They shook hands. Empty gesture, empty words, empty future. She walked back to her office and sat at her desk and stared at the photo of her father that she kept on the credenza. He was standing in front of the original factory, 25 years old, holding a blueprint and grinning like he'd just won the lottery. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the photo. "I'm so sorry." Her phone buzzed. Text from Melissa Torres. "Some of us are getting drinks after work. You should come." Ava typed back. "Can't. Sorry." She couldn't face them, couldn't sit in a bar and pretend everything was going to be okay when she knew it wasn't. Couldn't accept their comfort when she was the reason they needed comforting. At 6 p.m., she packed her bag and headed for the elevator. The building was mostly empty now. The announced bankruptcy had sent people home early, some to update resumes, some to call family, some just to process the shock in private. Ava's footsteps echoed in the quiet hallways. She pressed the elevator button and waited. Behind her, she heard footsteps, quick, purposeful. "Ms. Caldwell?" She turned. A man stood in the hallway, maybe early 30s, wearing a janitor's uniform, dark blue coveralls with Caldwell Industries embroidered on the chest. He was holding something in his hand, a piece of paper. Ava didn't recognize him, but then she wouldn't. She'd never paid attention to the janitorial staff. They were invisible to her, the way executives are always invisible to the people who clean up after them. "Yes?" she said. The man hesitated. He had dark hair, needed a shave, looked like he hadn't slept in a week. His hands were shaking slightly. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said. "I know you're busy. I know this is a bad time. What do you need?" He took a step closer, holding out the paper. "I think there's a mistake in your numbers." Ava stared at him. "Excuse me?" "The bankruptcy filing, the financial reports. I think there's a mistake." The elevator dinged. The doors opened. Ava stepped inside, pressed the button for the lobby. "If you have concerns about your severance package, talk to HR," she said. The man moved quickly, catching the elevator door before it closed. "Please, just listen for 1 minute." "I don't have a minute." "I know, but I've been looking at the reports." "You've been looking at what?" Ava felt anger flare, hot and sudden. "Who are you to be looking at confidential financial reports?" The man flushed. "They're not confidential. They're in the public filings now. Anyone can read them." He wasn't wrong. The bankruptcy filing was public record. Still. "What's your name?" Ava asked. "Liam Brooks." "Well, Liam Brooks, I appreciate your concern, but we have an entire finance department and a team of external auditors who've reviewed these numbers 100 times. If there was a mistake, they would have found it." "They didn't," Liam said quietly. "I did." The elevator doors tried to close again. Liam held them open. "Please," he said, just look at this one number. That's all I'm asking." Ava looked at him, really looked. He didn't seem crazy, didn't seem like he was trying to cause trouble. He seemed scared. No, not scared, desperate, like a man who knows something important and can't get anyone to listen. 5 minutes, Ava said. "That's all you get." They went to a small conference room on the 3rd floor, one of the anonymous boxes that had probably hosted 1,000 pointless meetings over the years. Liam spread the paper on the table. It was a printout of one of the financial reports from the bankruptcy filing, the consolidated balance sheet. "Here," he said, pointing to a line item. "This number, operating asset value Q3. It's listed as negative $214 million. Ava looked. "Yes, that's the depreciation on our manufacturing equipment after the market adjustment." "But that doesn't make sense." "How so?" Liam pulled out another paper, this one from an earlier quarterly report. In Q2, the same asset was valued at positive $189 million. You're telling me the equipment lost $403 million in value in 3 months? The market crashed. Valuations dropped. "Not that much. Not for equipment that's still functional." Liam tapped the paper. "I called the manufacturer of your CNC machines. Used models are selling for 60% of original cost right now. Your equipment is only 3 years old. Even with depreciation, it should still be worth at least $150 million. Ava felt something cold slide down her spine. "You called the manufacturer?" "I had to check. I thought maybe I was wrong." "You had no right, but I know. I'm sorry. But Ms. Caldwell, if this number is wrong, it changes everything." Ava sat down. Her legs felt unsteady suddenly. "Walk me through this," she said. Liam sat across from her. He spoke carefully, like a man trying not to spook a wild animal. "I clean the finance offices at night," he said. "I see a lot of reports left on desks, in printers, in the recycling. I don't usually pay attention, but about 2 months ago, I noticed this number because it seemed too big, just off. I started watching it in each new report. And it kept growing. Negative $150 million, then negative $180 million, then this. Negative $214 million. But nothing else changed to justify it. Production levels stayed steady. Equipment usage stayed steady. The only thing that changed was the number." Ava's mind was racing. If the number is wrong, If the asset is actually worth positive $150 million instead of negative $214 million, that's a swing of $364 million, Liam said quietly, which would completely change the company's net position. We'd still be in trouble, Ava said. But we wouldn't be bankrupt. Right. They stared at each other across the table. This doesn't make sense, Ava said. The auditors reviewed everything. Patterson's team went through every line item. Did they check the source data? Of course they did. Did they verify it against the physical assets? Ava hesitated. I don't know. Liam leaned forward. Ms. Caldwell, I'm not a finance guy. I barely passed high school algebra, but I know how to spot when numbers don't add up, and these numbers don't add up. Ava pulled out her phone, dialed Hartwick. He answered on the second ring. Ava? Gerald, I need you to pull the Q3 asset valuation work papers. What? Why? Just do it. I'm in conference room 3B. Bring them here. Ava, it's 6:30. I'm about to leave. Now, Gerald. She hung up. Liam was watching her. You believe me? I don't know what I believe, Ava said, but I'm going to find out. Hartwick arrived 10 minutes later carrying a leather portfolio and looking annoyed. This better be important, he said. Then he saw Liam and froze. Who's this? Liam Brooks. He works here. Doing what? Janitorial services, Liam said quietly. Hartwick looked at Ava like she'd lost her mind. You called me back here because the janitor has questions about our financials? He found a discrepancy, Ava said. Show him, Liam. Liam went through it again, pointing out the numbers, explaining the timeline. Hartwick listened with barely concealed impatience. This is ridiculous, Hartwick said when Liam finished. That asset was revalued based on current market conditions. The methodology was reviewed by our external auditors. Show me the work papers, Ava said. Hartwick sighed, opened the portfolio, pulled out a thick stack of spreadsheets. He flipped to a page, pointed. Here, operating asset value. Source data from the equipment inventory system, cross-reference with market depreciation schedules, adjusted for current market conditions. Ava studied the page. Then she looked at Liam. What am I missing? The sign, Liam said. Look at the source data. Hartwick frowned. What about it? It's positive $214 million in the source, but it's negative $214 million in the summary. Silence. Hartwick looked closer. His face went pale. That's just a formatting issue, he said. Negative values indicate assets in this particular report structure. No, they don't, Ava said softly. Negative values indicate liabilities. Assets are always positive. It's a sign reversal, Liam said. Somewhere between the source data and the final report, someone flipped the sign, turned an asset into a liability. Hartwick was shaking his head. No, this would have been caught. This would have been Gerald. Ava's voice cut through his denial like a knife. Is this number wrong? Hartwick looked at the page, looked at Liam, looked at Ava. I need to check the database, he said. Then check it. Tom. They went to Hartwick's office. He logged into the financial system, pulled up the asset inventory module, ran the queries. The numbers appeared on screen. Operating asset value, Q3, $214,387,592. Positive. Not negative. Hartwick sat back in his chair like someone had punched him in the stomach. How? Ava said. How did this happen? I don't know. Gerald, I don't know. Hartwick's voice cracked. The data was exported from this system into the reporting template. It should have carried over exactly as is. But it didn't, Liam said quietly. Ava pulled out her phone again. I'm calling Patterson. Ava, wait. Wait for what? We just filed for bankruptcy based on numbers that are wrong. Do you understand what that means? It's one number, Hartwick said. One line item. It's a $400 million swing, Ava said. That's not one line item. That's the entire basis for the filing. She dialed Patterson's number. He didn't answer. She left a message. Mr. Patterson, this is Ava Caldwell. We've found a significant error in the financial reports you reviewed. Call me back immediately. She hung up, looked at Hartwick. Pull the entire reporting chain. Every spreadsheet, every export, every transformation. I want to know where this number got flipped and why. That could take days. Then you better get started. Hartwick looked at Liam. You found this? Yes, sir. How? Liam shrugged. I pay attention. Hartwick let out a long breath. If you're right, if this is real, you just saved this company. Maybe, Liam said, or maybe I just complicated things. No, Ava said. She felt something stirring inside her chest, something she hadn't felt in months. You did the right thing. Over the next 4 hours, they lived in spreadsheets. Hartwick called in 2 analysts from the finance team. They pulled every version of every report, tracing the data lineage backward from the final filing to the source systems. Ava sat with them, following the logic, checking the math. Liam stayed too. He didn't understand half of what they were doing, but Ava kept him there anyway. He'd earned the right to see this through. At 10:47 p.m., they found it. The error had occurred during a data export from the inventory system into the reporting template. Someone had used a formula that automatically converted positive values above a certain threshold into negative values. Some kind of conditional formatting meant for a different type of report. The formula had been sitting in the template for months, invisible, waiting. When the Q3 data came through, the operating asset value crossed the threshold. The formula activated. Positive $214 million became negative $214 million. And no one noticed. Not the analyst who prepared the report, not the manager who reviewed it, not the CFO who signed off on it, not the external auditors who verified it, not the board who voted based on it. One formula, one invisible rule, one catastrophic error. We need to halt the filing, one of the analysts said. If this gets submitted to the court tomorrow. It won't, Ava said. She was already dialing her lawyer. The lawyer answered, groggy. Ava, it's almost 11. We need to withdraw the bankruptcy filing. Silence. Say that again? There's an error in the financial reports, a significant one. We need to withdraw immediately before the court processes it. Ava, you can't just withdraw a bankruptcy filing. Once it's submitted, it hasn't been processed yet. We submitted this morning, but the court doesn't review until tomorrow. We still have time. This is going to look terrible. I don't care how it looks. File the withdrawal. Tonight. I'll need documentation of the error. You'll have it in an hour. She hung up, looked at her team. Write it up. Every detail. I want a complete analysis of how this happened and what the correct numbers are. They worked. Ava called Patterson 4 more times. He finally answered at 11:30. Ms. Caldwell, it's very late. Your audit missed a $400 million error, Ava said. She heard him sit up. What? The operating asset value was recorded as negative instead of positive. Your team signed off on it. That's impossible. It's not. I'm sending you the documentation now. She forwarded the analysis. Heard him typing, clicking, breathing harder as he read. This is... Patterson's voice trailed off. I need to call my team. You do that. And Mr. Patterson, when the lawsuits start, and they will, remember that we found this error, not you. She ended the call. At midnight, the lawyer filed the withdrawal motion with the bankruptcy court. At 12:47 a.m., Ava sent an email to the board. Emergency meeting, 7 a.m. tomorrow. Attendance mandatory. At 1:15 a.m., she stood in the empty lobby of Caldwell Industries with Hartwick and Liam, all of them exhausted, all of them stunned. What happens now? Hartwick asked. I have no idea, Ava said honestly. But we're not bankrupt, that's a start. She looked at Liam. He was leaning against the wall, eyes red, looking like he might fall asleep standing up. You have a kid? She asked. Yeah, daughter. She's 6. Where is she tonight? Neighbors watching her. I told her I'd be home by 7. He checked his watch, winced. That was 6 hours ago. Go home, Ava said. Be with your daughter. I can stay if you need. Liam? She put a hand on his shoulder. You just saved 14,000 jobs. Go home. We'll talk tomorrow. He nodded, grabbed his coat, headed for the door. Liam, Ava called after him. He turned. Thank you. He gave her a small, tired smile. Just doing my job, ma'am. Then he was gone, pushing through the glass doors into the cold October night. Hartwick watched him go. He's a janitor. I know. And he found what we all missed. I know. That's going to be hard to explain. I don't care about explaining it, Ava said. I care about fixing it. She picked up her bag, headed for the exit. Ava, Hartwick said. She stopped. Your father would be proud. Ava felt her throat tighten. My father would have caught the error before it got this far. Maybe. Or maybe he would have trusted the wrong people too. She didn't answer, just walked out into the night, into the cold, into whatever tomorrow would bring. The crisis wasn't over. The company was still bleeding. The damage was still catastrophic. But for the first time in 6 months, Ava felt something besides despair. She felt anger at the auditors who missed this, at the systems that allowed it to happen, at herself for trusting blindly instead of questioning, and underneath the anger, something else, something sharp and fierce and unbreakable. Hope. The board meeting started at 7 a.m. sharp, and by 7:03, it had already turned into a war zone. Ava stood at the head of the conference table, displaying the corrected financial analysis on the screen behind her. 12 board members stared back, their expressions ranging from confused to furious. Gerald Hartwick sat to her right, looking like he hadn't slept. He probably hadn't. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, said Marcus Chen, the board's senior member and former COO under Ava's father. He was 70, sharp as a razor, and currently looked ready to murder someone. We announced bankruptcy yesterday morning. We filed with the court. We made international news. And now you're telling us it was all based on a spreadsheet error? Yes, Ava said. An error that your CFO missed. Chen looked at Hartwick. That our external auditors missed. That Patterson's entire team missed. Also, yes. And who found this error? This was from Jennifer Walsh, who ran a private equity firm and had joined the board 2 years ago. Who exactly caught what apparently every financial professional in this company failed to see? Ava hesitated. She knew how this would sound. A janitor, she said. The room exploded. Are you kidding me? Someone shouted. This is absurd, another voice called out. Walsh just stared. Did you just say a janitor? His name is Liam Brooks, Ava said, raising her voice over the chaos. He noticed a discrepancy in the public filings and brought it to my attention last night. We verified his findings. He was right. A janitor, Chen repeated slowly. With what credentials? What financial background? None, Ava admitted. But he can read a balance sheet, and he knows when numbers don't make sense. This is a disaster, Walsh said. She was already typing on her phone. The optics alone are going to destroy us. We'll be a laughingstock. Better a laughingstock than bankrupt, Ava shot back. Are we even certain this correction is accurate? This was Robert Tillman, who represented one of the company's largest creditors. Because if we withdraw the filing and then discover we were right the first time, the correction is accurate, Hartwick interrupted. We've triple-checked the source data. The original figure was positive $214 million. The error occurred during the export process. How does something like that even happen? Chen demanded. Hartwick explained the formula, the conditional formatting, the invisible rule that had been lurking in the template. With each sentence, the board members looked more incredulous. So you're telling me, Walsh said when he finished, that this entire company nearly went bankrupt because someone built a spreadsheet wrong? Essentially, yes. She laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. We're supposed to explain that to investors? To the media? That we almost destroyed a $70 billion company over an Excel formula? We don't have to explain anything, Ava said. We just have to fix it. Fix it how? Tillman leaned forward. Ava, even with the corrected numbers, this company is still in serious trouble. We're still hemorrhaging cash. We still have massive debt obligations. This correction buys us time, but it doesn't solve the fundamental problems. I know that. Then what's your plan? Ava looked around this table. These were people who'd served with her father, who'd guided the company through previous crises, who'd voted unanimously just yesterday to file for bankruptcy. They were smart, experienced, competent, and they'd all missed the error, just like she had. My plan, Ava said carefully, is to rebuild our financial controls from the ground up, to implement verification systems that actually work, to create a culture where people at every level feel empowered to speak up when something looks wrong. That's not a plan, Walsh said. That's a philosophy. Then it's a philosophy that might have saved us $800 million if we'd had it 6 months ago. The room went quiet. Chen broke the silence. What about Patterson? His firm is liable for this. They certified those numbers. I spoke with him last night, Ava said. He's conducting an internal review, but frankly, I don't care about blame right now. I care about making sure this never happens again. The shareholders will care about blame, Tillman said. When word gets out that we filed for bankruptcy unnecessarily, there will be lawsuits. Lots of them. Let them sue, Ava said. I'd rather fight lawsuits than liquidate the company. Another board member spoke up, David Kwan, who'd been silent until now. What about the employees? They think they're being fired. The announcement went out yesterday. People are already looking for new jobs. Ava felt that weight settle back on her chest. I'm holding an all-hands meeting at 9. I'll tell them the truth. Which is what, exactly? Walsh asked. That we made a mistake? That their jobs are safe? Their jobs aren't safe, Ava said bluntly. We're still in crisis, but we have a fighting chance now. That's more than we had yesterday. This is going to be a PR nightmare, Walsh muttered. Everything about the last 24 hours has been a nightmare, Ava said. At least now it's an honest one. The meeting dragged on for another hour, circling through the same arguments, the same fears, the same anger. Finally, Chen called for a vote on whether to support Ava's decision to withdraw the filing. The vote was 8-4 in favor. Not unanimous this time. Progress, Ava thought bitterly. As the board members filed out, Chen hung back. He waited until the room was empty except for him, Ava, and Hartwick. Your father and I worked together for 32 years, Chen said quietly. I was there when he started this company in that garage. I watched him build it into something extraordinary. I know, Ava said. He made mistakes too, big ones. There was a year in the 90s when we almost went under because he bet everything on a contract that fell through. He nearly lost the house, the factory, everything. Ava had heard this story before, but she let Chen tell it anyway. What saved him wasn't that he was smarter than everyone else, Chen continued. It was that he knew how to listen. When his machinist told him there was a problem with the production line, he listened. When his secretary said the numbers didn't look right, he listened. He didn't care who you were or what your title was. If you saw something, you said something, and he paid attention. Chen looked at Ava directly. You're doing the right thing. Don't let these people convince you otherwise. Even if it makes the company look incompetent? The company is incompetent, Chen said. We just proved it. The question is whether we learn from it or pretend it didn't happen. He picked up his briefcase and headed for the door. At the threshold, he paused. That janitor, Brooks, you said? Yes. You should keep him close. People who actually pay attention are rare. Then he was gone. Hartwick let out a long breath. Well, that went better than I expected. 8-4 isn't exactly a vote of confidence, Gerald. 8-4 means you still have a job. I'll take it. Ava checked her watch. 8:17. 43 minutes until she had to face 14,000 employees and explain that yesterday's catastrophe was actually today's miracle. She didn't feel ready. She'd never feel ready. Come on, she said to Hartwick. Let's go figure out what we're going to say. The company auditorium was designed to hold 1,200 people. By 8:55, it was packed with at least 1,500, and another couple thousand were watching via video feed in conference rooms throughout the building. The energy in the room felt electric and dangerous, like the air before a lightning strike. Ava stood backstage, listening to the murmur of voices, the occasional shout, the general atmosphere of betrayal and confusion. Melissa Torres appeared beside her. They're angry, Melissa said. I know. Some of them are really angry, like throwing things angry. I know. Are you sure you want to do this? We could send out a memo instead. Ava looked at her. Would you respect me more if I hid behind a memo? Melissa considered that. No, I'd respect you less. Then I'm doing this. At exactly 9 a.m., Ava walked onto the stage. The room didn't quiet down. If anything, it got louder. People shouted questions, accusations, demands. Someone threw a wadded-up piece of paper. It landed near her feet. Ava walked to the microphone and waited. Eventually, the noise died down enough that she could speak. "I know you're angry," she said. Her voice echoed through the auditorium. "You have every right to be. Yesterday, I stood in front of cameras and told the world this company was bankrupt. I told you that 8,000 of you would lose your jobs. I asked you to trust me, and then I pulled the floor out from under you." Someone in the back yelled, "So what changed?" "We found an error," Ava said. "A significant error in our financial reporting. The numbers we based the bankruptcy filing on were wrong." The room erupted again, this time with confusion instead of anger. "How wrong?" someone shouted. "Wrong enough that we're withdrawing the bankruptcy filing," Ava said. "Wrong enough that this company still has a future." She explained the error, kept it simple, avoided jargon, told them about the formula, the sign reversal, the $400 million swing. Told them about Liam. "Some of you know him," Ava said. "Liam Brooks, works third shift in facilities maintenance. He noticed something didn't add up, and instead of ignoring it, instead of assuming someone smarter had already checked, he spoke up. He questioned the numbers, and he was right." The room had gone completely silent now. "Here's what I'm not going to do," Ava continued. "I'm not going to stand here and pretend everything is fine now. We're still in crisis. We still have serious financial problems. We still need to make major changes. But we have time now. We have a chance. And I'm asking you to give me that chance." A woman in the third row stood up. Ava recognized her. Sarah Chen, worked in quality control, had been with the company for 18 years. "Why should we trust you?" Sarah asked. Her voice shook slightly, but she didn't sit down. "You said the company was dying. You said our jobs were gone. And now you're saying, never mind, we made a mistake? How are we supposed to believe anything you tell us?" It was a fair question, brutal but fair. "You shouldn't," Ava said. "Not blindly, not without proof. I've spent the last 6 months telling you to trust the process, trust the analysis, trust the experts. And the experts were wrong. I was wrong. So no, I'm not asking for blind trust anymore." "Then what are you asking for?" Sarah's voice was stronger now. "Accountability," Ava said. "From me. From the entire leadership team. We're implementing new financial controls, independent verification on all major reports, mandatory cross-checks, and we're creating a direct reporting line for anyone at any level who sees something that doesn't look right. No retaliation, no dismissal. If you see a problem, you report it and it gets investigated. Period." "Who investigates?" someone called out. "We're establishing an independent oversight committee. Board members, yes, but also employee representatives. People you choose, not people I appoint." Murmurs ran through the crowd. "What about the layoffs?" This was from a man in the back. "Are people still losing their jobs?" Ava gripped the podium. "I don't know yet. Probably some. We're still operating at a loss, but nothing like 8,000. We're doing a complete reassessment this week. Anyone who's directly affected will know by Friday." "That's not good enough," someone yelled. "I know," Ava said. "But it's honest. And right now, honest is the best I can give you." More questions came. Rapid fire, overlapping, some angry, some genuinely curious. Ava answered what she could and admitted when she didn't have answers. No corporate speak, no deflection, just the truth, as ugly as it was. Finally, after 40 minutes, the questions slowed. Ava took a breath. "One more thing. Liam Brooks is here today. I asked him to come in early. Liam, are you here?" In the back of the auditorium, near the doors, a hand went up hesitantly. "Stand up," Ava said. Liam stood. He looked uncomfortable, embarrassed, like he wanted to sink through the floor. The room turned to look at him. "This man saved your jobs," Ava said. "Maybe not all of them, maybe not permanently, but when everyone else missed it, when I missed it, when the CFO missed it, when the auditors missed it, he saw it. And he had the guts to speak up. That's the kind of culture I want to build here, where it doesn't matter what your title is or where you sit in the org chart. If you see something, you say something, and people listen." The applause started small, just a few people in the front rows. Then it spread, building until the entire auditorium was clapping. Some people stood, then more. Liam looked like he might die of embarrassment. Ava stepped away from the microphone and walked off stage. Backstage, Melissa was waiting with a strange expression on her face. "What?" Ava asked. That was good, Melissa said. Really good. Don't sound so surprised. I'm not surprised. That's the first time I've seen you lead like your father. Ava felt something catch in her throat. He would have handled it better. He would have handled it differently, Melissa corrected. Better? I don't know. You told them the truth. That's what mattered. They walked back toward the executive offices. The hallways were fuller now, people emerging from conference rooms, talking in clusters, processing what they'd just heard. Several people stopped Ava as she passed. Thank you for being honest. We'll get through this. My cousin works at Patterson's firm. They're freaking out over there. Ava nodded, accepted their words, kept moving. In her office, she found Liam waiting in one of the visitor chairs. He stood when she entered. Sorry, he said. Your assistant said I could wait here. It's fine. Sit. He sat. So did she. They looked at each other across the desk. You didn't have to do that, Liam said. In there. The applause thing. Yes, I did. I don't want to be some kind of hero. I just noticed a number. You did more than that, Ava said. You challenged the system. That takes courage. Liam shrugged. Or stupidity. I still can't believe you listened to me. Why wouldn't I? Because I'm nobody. I clean toilets and empty trash cans. Why would someone like you listen to someone like me? The question hit harder than Ava expected. Because someone like me almost destroyed this company by only listening to people with fancy titles and expensive credentials. Maybe that was the problem all along. Liam smiled slightly. So what happens now? Now we figure out how to actually save this place. Ava leaned back in her chair. I meant what I said in there about the oversight committee. I want you on it. Me? I don't know anything about oversight. You know how to spot when something's wrong. That's exactly what oversight needs. I have a daughter. I work nights because I need to be home during the day for her school, for pickup, for everything. I can't just... We'll work around your schedule, Ava interrupted. Day meetings, remote participation when you need it, whatever it takes. Liam was quiet for a moment. Why are you doing this? But she said, because I need people who'll tell me the truth. People who aren't afraid to say the emperor has no clothes. You proved you're willing to do that. Even when it makes you look bad. Especially when it makes me look bad. Liam studied her. Okay, I'll do it. But I'm keeping my regular job too. I'm not becoming some executive. Deal. They shook hands. After Liam left, Ava sat alone in her office and let herself feel the exhaustion creeping in. She'd been running on adrenaline and coffee for 36 hours straight. Her body was starting to rebel. Her phone buzzed. Text from Chen. Legal called. Patterson's firm wants to meet. They're worried about liability. Ava typed back. They should be. Another text. This one from her mother. Saw the news. Are you okay? She didn't answer that one. Hartwick appeared in her doorway. We've got a problem. Of course we do. What now? The stock. It's up 18% in the last hour. Ava frowned. That's a problem? It is when it's based on speculation and incomplete information. People think we just magically fixed everything. They're buying in at inflated prices, and when reality hits, it'll crash again. I know. Ava rubbed her temples. Can we issue a statement? We can try. But the market's going to believe what it wants to believe. Then let it. We've got bigger problems than day traders making bad bets. Hartwick hesitated. There's something else. I got a call from a reporter at Bloomberg. They want to do a story about Liam, the janitor who saved the company. It's going to be everywhere by this afternoon. Let them run it. Ava, it's going to make us look incompetent. We are incompetent, Gerald. We just proved it. Might as well own it. Your father never would have... My father's dead, Ava snapped. Then softer. I'm sorry. That was harsh. But I'm not my father. I can't run this company the way he did. I have to find my own way. Hartwick nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. You voted yes this morning, I know. Actually, I was one of the 4 who voted no. Ava stared at him. What? I thought we should stick with the bankruptcy. Take our lumps, restructure, move on. This whole withdrawal thing felt like prolonging the inevitable. Then why are you helping me? Because I work for you. And because maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong about a lot lately. He gave her a tired smile. Your father used to say the hardest part of leadership isn't making decisions. It's living with them afterward. You made your decision. Now we live with it. He left. Ava sat in the silence of her office and thought about her father. About the photo on her credenza, the one with him grinning in front of the factory. He'd been so sure of himself back then, so confident that hard work and good products would be enough. She wondered if he'd ever felt this uncertain, this afraid. Probably. He just never showed it. The rest of the day disappeared into meetings, the oversight committee structure, the new financial controls, the revised timeline for creditor negotiations. Every conversation circled back to the same fundamental question: how do we make sure this never happens again? By 6 p.m., Ava's eyes were burning from staring at spreadsheets and contract language. She stood, stretched, walked to the window. The city spread out below her, lights beginning to flicker on as dusk settled in. Somewhere down there, Liam was probably picking up his daughter from the neighbor's house, making dinner, helping with homework, living a life that had nothing to do with balance sheets and bankruptcy filings, a life that had still managed to intersect with hers at exactly the right moment, or maybe the wrong moment, depending on how you looked at it. Ava's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello? Miss Caldwell, this is Rachel Diaz from Bloomberg. I was hoping I could ask you a few questions about... I'm not giving interviews right now. Just 5 minutes. It's about Liam Brooks and how he discovered the error. Then talk to Liam. I tried. He won't answer my calls. Smart man. Ms. Caldwell, this is a good story, a feel-good story. In all the chaos of the last 2 days, people want to hear about someone who did the right thing. Ava hesitated. What did you want to know? How did it feel when he brought you that spreadsheet, when you realized he was right? It felt like drowning and breathing at the same time, Ava said honestly, like the worst and best moment happening simultaneously. Do you think this changes how companies should approach financial oversight? I think this proves that expertise isn't the same as wisdom. We had experts, lots of them, but we didn't have anyone willing to question the experts. That's the culture that nearly killed us. And you're changing that culture? I'm trying to. Whether I succeed is a different question. What about Liam? What role does he play in all this? He's going to keep doing what he's been doing, paying attention, speaking up, making sure we don't get too comfortable with our own assumptions. That's an unusual job description. These are unusual times. The interview went on for another 10 minutes. When Ava finally hung up, she felt drained. Her phone buzzed immediately. Text from Melissa. Drink? I'm buying. Ava smiled, typed back, where? Sullivan's, corner booth. Get your ass down here. Sullivan's was a dive bar 3 blocks from the office, the kind of place where executives and factory workers ended up sitting next to each other because it was cheap and honest and didn't pretend to be anything it wasn't. Ava grabbed her coat and headed out. The bar was crowded, noisy, smelling of beer and fried food. Melissa was already there, sitting in the corner booth with a whiskey in front of her and another waiting across the table. Ava slid in, picked up the glass. How'd you know I'd come? Because you're exhausted and you need to not be alone right now. They drank in silence for a moment. I keep thinking about yesterday, Ava said finally. About standing in that lobby, watching people leave with their boxes. I was so sure it was over. It almost was. One number, one stupid formula, that's all it took. That's all it ever takes, Melissa said. My dad worked at a factory in Detroit. Place made car parts for Ford. In 2008, they lost their biggest contract because someone entered the bid amount wrong, typed $1.4 million instead of $14 million. Whole factory went under. 300 jobs gone because of a decimal point. That's horrifying. That's life. Numbers matter. Details matter. And sometimes the difference between success and failure is so small you can miss it if you're not paying attention. Ava thought about Liam, mopping floors at midnight, noticing what everyone else had missed. What would you have done? If you'd been me yesterday? If Liam had come to you with that spreadsheet? Melissa considered the question. Honestly, I probably would have dismissed him. Not because I'm a bad person, but because that's what we're trained to do. Trust the experts. Trust the process. Trust the people with credentials. So what changed? Why did I listen? Because you were desperate, Melissa said bluntly. You'd already lost everything. What did you have to lose by giving him 5 minutes? It was true. Painfully, brutally true. I was a coward, Ava said quietly. I was ready to walk away, to give up and let the company die. But you didn't. Only because Liam stopped me. Take the win, Ava. You listened when it mattered. That counts for something. They finished their drinks, ordered another round. Around them, the bar filled with more people from the office, all of them processing the day's revelations in their own ways. Someone recognized Ava and came over. Then someone else. Then a whole group, all of them wanting to shake her hand, to tell her they believed in her, to promise they'd stick with the company through whatever came next. It felt good and terrible at the same time. Good because they still had faith. Terrible because she wasn't sure she deserved it. At midnight, Melissa finally called it. Go home, get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be just as bad as today. Comforting. I'm not here to comfort you. I'm here to keep you sane. Ava hugged her. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm billing this to your corporate card. Ava laughed, grabbed her coat, headed for the door. Outside, the October air had turned bitter. She walked to her car, hands shoved in her pockets, breath fogging in the cold. Her phone buzzed one more time, text from an unknown number. This is Liam. Just wanted to say thank you for today. My daughter asked why people were clapping for me. I told her I just did my job. She said that's what heroes do, so I guess I'm a hero now. Weird. Ava smiled, typed back. Not weird. True. See you tomorrow. She got in her car, started the engine, sat there, letting it warm up. Tomorrow would bring new crises, new problems, new mistakes waiting to be made. But tonight, just for tonight, the company was still alive. And that was enough. The Bloomberg article hit at 6 a.m. on Thursday, and by 7, Ava's inbox was drowning in interview requests from every major news outlet in North America. She sat at her kitchen counter, still in her pajamas, scrolling through the messages while her coffee went cold. The headline read, The Janitor Who Saved an Empire, How One Man's Vigilance Prevented a Corporate Catastrophe. Beneath it was a photo of Liam looking deeply uncomfortable, standing outside the Caldwell Industries building. Ava's phone rang. Hartwick. Have you seen it? He asked. I'm looking at it now. CNBC wants you on air at 9. Fox Business at 10. The Journal wants a follow-up. This is getting out of control. Let it, Ava said. She was surprised by how calm she felt. We tried hiding from the truth. That didn't work out so well. The board is going to lose their minds. The board can handle it. What's the status on the creditor meetings? First one's at 11, Sterling Bank. They're not happy about the withdrawal. I wouldn't be either if I was them. I'll be in by 8. She hung up, stared at her coffee, dumped it in the sink, and made a fresh cup. Her mother called while she was in the shower. Ava ignored it, called back while getting dressed. Are you okay? Her mother asked. No, hello, no preamble, just straight to worry. I'm fine, Mom. The news is saying the company almost went bankrupt because of a computer error. That's basically accurate. And a janitor found it? Also accurate. Ava, sweetheart, this sounds insane. It is insane, but it's real, and we're dealing with it. Her mother was quiet for a moment. Your father would have been mortified. Dad would have been grateful someone caught it before it was too late. He would have been embarrassed that it happened in the first place. Ava felt her jaw tighten. Well, Dad's not here to be embarrassed. I am, and I'm handling it. I didn't mean, I have to go. I'll call you later. She ended the call before her mother could respond, immediately felt guilty, pushed the guilt aside. No time for it. Not today. The drive to the office took 40 minutes through rush hour traffic. Ava used the time to listen to a podcast some marketing analyst had done about the Caldwell situation. The host called it a case study in institutional blindness and a wake-up call for corporate America. He wasn't wrong. She pulled into the executive garage at 7:53, took the private elevator up to 42, stepped out into chaos. Her assistant, Karen, was fielding phone calls at a pace that seemed physically impossible. 3 people from PR were clustered by the conference room, arguing about messaging strategy. Hartwick was standing in Ava's office doorway, looking like he'd aged 5 years overnight. They're here, he said. Who's here? Patterson and his team. They showed up an hour ago demanding a meeting. I don't have time for Patterson right now. He's threatening to go public with his side of the story. Says we're making his firm the scapegoat. Ava stopped walking. Are we making them the scapegoat? They missed an $800 million error, Ava. They certified numbers that were wrong. That's not scapegoating. That's just facts. Where are they? Conference room B. Ava changed direction, headed down the hall. Hartwick followed. Patterson was pacing near the windows when she walked in. Two of his associates sat at the table, both looking miserable. Patterson spun around when the door opened. You're destroying my reputation, he said without preamble. Good morning to you too, Ava replied. Don't be cute. Your PR team is spinning this like we're incompetent. I haven't said a word about you to the press. You didn't have to. The story writes itself. Prestigious audit firm misses obvious error gets shown up by a janitor. We're a laughingstock. Ava sat down at the table. Then maybe you should have found the error. Patterson's face went red. That error was buried in a formula. It wasn't visible in the summary reports. Any reasonable audit would have missed it. A janitor found it. A janitor who had access to source documents that weren't part of our standard review process. Those documents were available. You could have requested them. We followed industry standard audit protocols. And those protocols almost destroyed my company, Ava said. Her voice was quiet, but there was steel in it. So maybe the protocols are the problem. One of Patterson's associates cleared his throat. Ms. Caldwell, we're not trying to avoid responsibility. But the public narrative is becoming very one-sided. We'd like to issue a joint statement explaining the context. What context? Ava asked. That this was an anomaly. That our audit procedures are sound. That this kind of error is extremely rare. Is it rare? The associate hesitated. In our experience, yes. How would you know? If your procedures don't catch it, how do you know it's rare? Silence. Patterson leaned on the table. What do you want from us, Ava? I want you to admit you screwed up. We can acknowledge that the error occurred during our audit period. No, Ava interrupted. Not occurred. Not passive language. You screwed up. Your team missed it. Say that. That exposes us to massive liability. Good. You're liable. Patterson straightened. If you pursue this, we'll countersue. We'll argue that your internal controls were so deficient that no reasonable audit could have caught this. We'll drag your entire finance department through depositions. It'll be ugly. Everything about this is already ugly, Ava said. I'm just trying to make it honest. They stared at each other across the table. Finally, Patterson's other associate spoke up. She was younger, maybe 35, and she'd been quiet until now. What if we offered something more useful than a statement? Like what? Ava asked. A complete review of your financial systems. No charge. We'll identify every potential vulnerability, every process gap, every place where something like this could happen again. We'll give you a roadmap for fixing it. Patterson shot her a look. We can't afford to do that for free. We can't afford not to, the associate replied. Our reputation is already damaged. We need to show we're part of the solution, not just making excuses. Ava considered it. How long would this review take? 2 weeks, maybe 3. We'd embed a team here, work with your people, document everything. And at the end, I get a report I can actually use, not corporate doublespeak? You get the truth, whatever we find. Ava looked at Hartwick. He gave a small nod. Okay, Ava said. Do the review, but I'm not signing anything that limits my ability to hold you accountable for the original audit. That's not acceptable, Patterson started. Then we're done here. Ava stood up. You can explain to your other clients why you're in the middle of a public lawsuit with a company you drove into bankruptcy with bad math. Patterson's jaw worked. Fine. We'll do the review. No preconditions. Good. Start Monday. She walked out, Hartwick behind her. In the hallway, he said, That was risky. If they find something worse, if there's something worse, I want to know about it before some other janitor has to tell me. The creditor meeting at 11 went about as well as expected, which meant it was terrible. Sterling Bank sent 3 representatives, all of them dressed in suits that cost more than most people's cars. The lead negotiator was a woman named Victoria Strand, who spoke in the kind of measured, emotionless tone that made everything sound like a threat. Let's be clear about the situation, Strand said. They were in the large conference room now, the one with the view of the river. You filed for bankruptcy. We adjusted our positions accordingly. Now you're saying the filing was premature. That creates significant complications. I understand, Ava said. I'm not sure you do. We made decisions based on the bankruptcy announcement. We wrote down our exposure. We reported losses to our shareholders. And now we're supposed to just pretend that didn't happen? I'm not asking you to pretend anything. I'm asking you to work with us on a revised payment schedule. Based on what assurances? Strand tapped a pen against her notepad. Your financial controls are clearly deficient. Your audit oversight is questionable. Why should we believe any numbers you give us now? Hartwick spoke up. We're implementing new verification protocols, independent review on all major reports. Patterson's team is doing a complete systems audit. The same Patterson who missed this error in the first place? They're motivated to get it right this time. Strand smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Ms. Caldwell, Sterling Bank has been a creditor of Caldwell Industries for 15 years. We've worked through difficult periods before, but this situation is unprecedented. We need to see structural changes, not just promises. What kind of changes? Ava asked. Board oversight, independent financial management, potentially new executive leadership. You want me to step down? We want confidence that this company is being run by people who know what they're doing. Ava felt heat rising in her chest. I know what I'm doing. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you nearly destroyed a multi-billion-dollar company because you didn't catch a spreadsheet error. A spreadsheet error that your due diligence missed too. We're not the ones running the company. No, but you're the ones who approved our credit lines based on those same flawed reports. So maybe we're all complicit here. Strand's expression hardened. That sounds like you're trying to deflect responsibility. I'm not deflecting anything. I take full responsibility for what happened. But I'm also not going to pretend that banks like yours don't have their own oversight failures. One of Strand's colleagues leaned in, whispered something. She nodded, turned back to Ava. Here's what we're prepared to offer, Strand said. We'll extend your current credit line for 90 days. During that time, you'll provide weekly financial reports verified by an independent auditor, not Patterson. Someone with no prior relationship to Caldwell Industries. At the end of 90 days, we reassess. If we're satisfied with your progress, we negotiate a longer-term restructuring. If not, we call the loan. 90 days isn't enough time to turn this around, Hartwick said. It's enough time to prove you're moving in the right direction. That's all we need. Ava looked at her CFO. He gave a slight shrug that said, this is probably the best we're going to get. Fine, Ava said. 90 days, but I choose the independent auditor. Subject to our approval. Subject to your reasonable approval. I'm not letting you handpick someone who'll tank us. Strand considered. Acceptable. We'll draw up the terms and send them over this afternoon. They shook hands. The meeting ended. Strand and her team left, their expensive shoes clicking on the marble floor. Ava slumped in her chair. That was fun. It was necessary, Hartwick said. We need their cooperation. We need them to stop treating us like criminals. We made them look bad. They're going to make us pay for it. Melissa stuck her head in the door. Your 1 o'clock is here. Who's my 1 o'clock? Liam Brooks. You asked him to come in for the Oversight Committee planning session. Ava had completely forgotten. Right, send him in. Liam appeared a minute later, still in his work coveralls. He looked around the conference room like he'd wandered into the wrong building. Sorry, he said. I can come back if you're busy. No, sit, please. Ava gestured to a chair. Gerald, can you give us a minute? Hartwick nodded and left. Liam sat down, looking uncomfortable. I saw the article this morning. Everyone saw the article. They made me sound like some kind of genius. I just read a number. You read a number that everyone else missed. That's worth something. My daughter's teachers keep asking me about it. Her friends' parents. Everyone wants to talk about the bankruptcy that wasn't. It's weird. Welcome to 15 minutes of fame. I don't want 15 minutes of fame. I want to do my job and go home. Ava smiled. Too late. You're stuck with this now. Great. They sat in silence for a moment. You want out? Ava asked. I'd understand. This is a lot more than you signed up for. Liam shook his head. No, I said I'd help with the oversight thing. I keep my word. Even if it's inconvenient? Especially then. That's what my dad used to say. Anyone can keep promises when they're easy. Character is keeping them when they're hard. Your dad sounds smart. He was. Died when I was 24. Heart attack, just like yours. I'm sorry. Yeah, me too. Liam looked out the window. He worked construction. 60 hours a week, every week, his whole life. Never complained, just showed up and did the work. When he died, his boss told me my dad was the only guy on the crew who'd tell him when something wasn't safe. Everyone else just kept their heads down, afraid of losing their jobs. But my dad would stop work and say, "This isn't right. We need to fix it." Got him in trouble sometimes, but probably saved lives too. Sounds like you learned from him. I try to, doesn't always work out. Ava leaned forward. Can I ask you something? Why did you really bring me that spreadsheet? You could have just ignored it, could have let the bankruptcy happen and found another job. Liam was quiet for a long moment. My daughter, Emma. She's 6. Smart as hell, asks a million questions about everything. A few weeks ago, she asked me what I do at work. I told her I clean buildings. She said, "That's boring." And I told her it's not about what you do, it's about how you do it. If you see something wrong and you don't say anything, that's on you. And you saw something wrong. Yeah, and I couldn't explain to my kid why I kept quiet about it. Couldn't look her in the eye and say I knew the company was dying for the wrong reasons, and I just let it happen. He shrugged. So I spoke up, figured worst case, you'd ignore me and I'd be no worse off. Best case? I'd be able to tell Emma I tried. Ava felt something tighten in her throat. You're a good father. I'm trying to be. It's hard when you're doing it alone. Where's Emma's mother? Took off when Emma was 2. Couldn't handle the responsibility, I guess. Or couldn't handle me. Probably both. Liam gave a rueful smile. I'm not exactly what you'd call a catch. High school dropout, work nights, live in a 1-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood where the sirens never stop. But Emma's happy. That's what matters. She's lucky to have you. I hope so. Melissa knocked and entered without waiting. Sorry to interrupt, but we've got another problem. The union wants a meeting, today if possible. Ava checked her watch. 2:15. When? They're asking for 4. Set it up. Conference room A. Melissa left. Liam started to stand. Wait, Ava said. I want you there. At a union meeting? Why? Because you're part of the oversight committee now. You should see how these things work. I'm union. It's going to look weird if I'm sitting on the management side of the table. Good. It should look weird. Everything about this situation is weird. Might as well embrace it. Liam thought about that. Okay. But if they ask me questions, I'm answering honestly. I wouldn't want it any other way. The union meeting started tense and got worse from there. Frank Delgado, the local union president, sat across from Ava with his arms crossed and his expression set to maximum skepticism. He'd brought 4 other representatives, all of them looking equally unconvinced. We heard about the bankruptcy withdrawal, Frank said. Heard about the spreadsheet error. Heard about your janitor finding what the finance team couldn't. All true, Ava said. So here's my question. If the numbers were that wrong, what else is wrong? How do we know our pension fund calculations are accurate? How do we know wage increases have been computed correctly? How do we know anything? It was the same question Strand had asked, just from a different angle. We don't know, Ava admitted. That's why we're doing a complete systems review. Everything gets verified, everything gets checked. By the same people who screwed it up the first time? By Patterson's team initially, but also by an independent auditor, and by an oversight committee that includes employee representatives. Frank's eyes flicked to Liam, who was sitting slightly behind Ava. That him? The janitor? His name is Liam Brooks, Ava said. And yes, he a union member. I am, Liam said quietly. Frank turned his full attention to Liam. So you're sitting on management's committee now? Switching sides? I'm not switching sides. I'm trying to make sure what happened doesn't happen again. From the management side of the table. From wherever I can be most useful. Must be nice, getting all this attention, moving up in the world. Liam's jaw tightened. I'm still cleaning bathrooms at midnight, Frank. My paycheck hasn't changed. My apartment hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is people like you questioning my motives. Can you blame me? Management's been lying to us for months about the company's finances. I haven't lied to you, Ava interrupted. You told us everything was under control. Then you filed for bankruptcy. Now you're saying, never mind, it was all a mistake. How is that not lying? I told you what I believed to be true based on the information I had. That information was wrong. I take responsibility for that, but I didn't lie. Frank leaned back. You know what the guys on the floor are saying? They're saying this whole thing is a setup. That you filed bankruptcy to scare us into accepting concessions, then discovered this error so you could withdraw it and look like a hero. Ava felt her temper flare. That's insane. Is it? Because it's a hell of a convenient narrative. Companies dying, everyone panics, then you pull a rabbit out of a hat and save the day. Meanwhile, you've scared everyone enough that they'll accept whatever terms you offer just to keep their jobs. You actually think I orchestrated this? That I tanked our stock price, humiliated myself in front of the entire business world, and destroyed my reputation just to negotiate better union terms? I think people do desperate things when they're desperate. Ava stood up. Get out. Frank blinked. Excuse me? You want to accuse me of fraud? Do it through your lawyers, but don't sit in my conference room and call me a liar to my face. I'm not calling you a liar. I'm saying, you're saying you don't trust me. Fine. I get it. I wouldn't trust me either right now. But if you think this is some elaborate scam, then there's no point in us talking. So get out. The room went silent. One of the other union reps, a woman named Teresa, spoke up. Frank, maybe we should... No, Frank said. Ms. Caldwell wants us to leave. We'll leave. But this conversation isn't over. He stood, his team following. They filed out, leaving Ava standing at the head of the table, shaking with anger. When the door closed, Liam said, That went well? Ava let out a sharp laugh. He's not wrong to be suspicious. Yeah, but he's wrong about what he's suspicious of. You didn't set this up. How do you know? Because you're a terrible liar. When you're stressed, you pull at your left earring. You've done it probably 20 times in the last hour. If you were running some kind of scam, you'd be better at hiding it. Ava touched her ear, realized he was right. When did you notice that? I notice things. It's kind of my whole deal now, apparently. She sat back down. I just burned a bridge with the union. Maybe. Or maybe Frank needed to hear that you're not going to take accusations sitting down. He's going to make this harder. It was already hard. Fair point. They sat in silence for a moment. Can I ask you something? Liam said. Why do you keep doing this? Doing what? Running the company, dealing with all this mess. You're rich. You could walk away, sell your shares, live on a beach somewhere. Why stay? Ava thought about it. Because my father built this from nothing, and I'm not going to be the person who let it die. Even if it costs you everything? Even then. That's either really noble or really stupid. Probably both, Liam smiled. Yeah, probably. The rest of the day blurred into more meetings, more phone calls, more people wanting pieces of her time and attention. By 7 p.m., Ava was back in her office, staring at a spreadsheet of the revised payment schedules they needed to present to creditors. Her head hurt. Her eyes burned. Her whole body felt like it was running on fumes. Karen knocked on the door. There's someone here to see you. Says it's important. Tell them to make an appointment. She says she's your mother. Ava's head snapped up. What? Should I send her in? Yes, sure. Her mother walked in a minute later carrying a bag from the Chinese restaurant 3 blocks from Ava's apartment. She looked exactly the way Ava remembered from childhood. Put together but not flashy, with that slightly worried expression that never quite left her face. Hi, sweetheart, her mother said. Mom, what are you doing here? I brought you dinner. You sounded terrible on the phone this morning, and I thought you probably hadn't eaten. You flew in from Arizona to bring me Chinese food? I flew in because my daughter is going through hell, and I wanted to be here. Her mother set the bag on Ava's desk. Kung Pao chicken, extra spicy, your favorite. Ava felt tears prick her eyes. Mom, don't. Just eat. They sat on the couch in Ava's office, eating takeout straight from the containers. Her mother didn't ask about the bankruptcy or the error or any of it. She just talked about her flight, about the neighbor's new dog, about the book club she'd joined. Normal things, safe things. Finally, when the food was mostly gone, her mother said, Your father would be proud of you. Ava shook her head. No, he wouldn't. I nearly destroyed his company. You're fighting to save it. That's what he'd see. He wouldn't have let it get this bad in the first place. Her mother was quiet for a moment. Ava, do you know why I left your father? Because you needed stability. You said that. That's what I told you because you were 16 and I didn't want to make him the villain. But the truth is more complicated. Her mother set down her container. Your father was brilliant, hardworking, dedicated, but he was also stubborn. He thought he could fix everything himself. He didn't delegate, didn't trust other people to carry the load. And when things went wrong, he blamed himself so completely that there was no room for anyone else. I don't understand. He would have done exactly what you did, made the same mistakes, trusted the same people, and then he would have beaten himself up about it forever. The difference is, you're learning from it. You're changing things. He never could do that. Ava wiped her eyes. I miss him. I know, so do I. You left him. I left the situation. I never stopped caring about him. Her mother reached over, took Ava's hand. And I've never stopped caring about you. I'm sorry I wasn't here these last few years. You didn't have to come. Yes, I did. You're my daughter. You're allowed to need help. They sat like that for a while, holding hands in the quiet office while the city lights flickered outside. Eventually, her mother stood. I should go. I got a hotel room downtown, but I'm here all weekend if you need me. Thanks, Mom. And Ava, that janitor who found the error, Liam. What about him? Keep him close. People who tell the truth are rare. After her mother left, Ava sat alone in her office and thought about truth. About how easy it was to avoid it, to hide behind numbers and reports and expert opinions. About how one person paying attention had changed everything. About how close she'd come to losing it all. Her phone buzzed. Text from Hartwick. Patterson's preliminary report is in. You need to see this. Ava's stomach dropped. How bad? Just come to my office. She found Hartwick at his desk, surrounded by printouts. He looked pale. What did they find? Ava asked. 3 more errors. Not as big as the first one, but significant. Depreciation schedules miscalculated, tax liabilities understated, inventory valuations off by about 12%. How much total? Another 100 million swing, maybe more. Ava sat down hard. How did we miss all this? The same way we missed the first one. Wrong formulas, bad data transfers, nobody checking the source. So the company's in even worse shape than we thought. Actually, no. Hartwick handed her a summary sheet. These errors mostly went the other direction. We were overestimating liabilities, underestimating assets. The corrected numbers are better than what we filed. We're still in trouble. Yes, but slightly less trouble. Ava laughed. It came out sounding slightly hysterical. So let me get this straight. We filed for bankruptcy based on numbers that were too pessimistic. Then we found an error that made things look better, and now we're finding more errors that also make things look better. What are the actual odds of that? Low. Very low. So either we're incredibly lucky or someone deliberately made the numbers look worse than they were. They stared at each other. Who would do that? Ava asked. And why? I don't know. But we need to find out. The word sabotage hung in the air between them like poison gas. Ava felt her pulse quicken. You think someone inside the company deliberately falsified the numbers? I think someone had access to the reporting templates and knew exactly which formulas to corrupt. Hartwick pulled up a document on his computer. Look at this. The conditional formatting that flipped the asset value? It was added to the template on August 12th at 3:47 a.m. Who was logged in? That's the problem. The user ID belongs to an admin account that 6 different people have access to. Can we check who was in the building that night? Already did. Building security shows 4 badge swipes between midnight and 6 a.m. 2 janitors, 1 security guard, and someone from IT doing server maintenance. What about remote access? Also possible. The VPN logs show 3 connections that night, but they're all from generic company laptops that get shared between departments. Ava stood up, started pacing. Okay, let's think about motive. Who benefits from the company filing for bankruptcy? Short sellers, competitors, creditors who want to force a liquidation and grab assets cheap. Anyone internal? Hartwick was quiet for a long moment. There were some layoffs proposed 6 months ago. Before your father died, he'd started talking about restructuring, cutting about 15% of the workforce. I remember. I shelved that plan when I took over. Right. But the people who were on the proposed list didn't know that. Some of them might have thought their jobs were still in danger. So they tanked the company to, what? Get revenge? Or to create chaos, make you look incompetent, force you out? Ava stopped pacing. Who was on that list? I'd have to pull the files from... Hartwick's expression changed. Wait, this doesn't make sense. If someone wanted to force you out, why make the numbers look worse? That doesn't accomplish anything except maybe destroying the company completely. Unless they wanted it to fail. Why would anyone internal want that? I don't know, but someone does. Ava grabbed her phone. I'm calling Marcus Chen. We need the board involved in this. Ava, wait. If we start throwing around accusations of sabotage without proof, then we look paranoid and unstable. I know. But if we don't investigate and it turns out someone did this intentionally, we look negligent. Damned either way. Story of my life lately. She called Chen. He answered on the fourth ring, sounding groggy. It's 10 p.m., Ava. This better be important. We think someone might have deliberately corrupted the financial reports. Silence. Then, I'm coming in. Don't talk to anyone else until I get there. He arrived 40 minutes later, still in his golf clothes, looking more alert than anyone had a right to at this hour. Ava and Hartwick walked him through everything. The additional errors, the timing of the formula changes, the access logs. Chen listened without interrupting. When they finished, he sat back and rubbed his eyes. This is bad, he said. I know. No, I mean, this is catastrophically bad. If word gets out that we think someone sabotaged the company from the inside, it'll destroy whatever credibility we have left. So we keep it quiet and investigate privately, Ava said. With who? We can't trust our own people. Patterson's team is already compromised. We need outside investigators. Like the FBI? Hartwick asked. No, not yet. Bringing in federal investigators means this becomes public. We need someone discreet. Chen pulled out his phone. I know a firm, former prosecutors, forensic accountants. They do corporate investigations under attorney-client privilege. If they find something, we can decide how to handle it. If they don't, it stays buried. How long will it take? Ava asked. Weeks? Maybe months. This kind of thing is like pulling a thread. You never know where it leads. We don't have months. Sterling gave us 90 days. Then we better hope they work fast. Chen made the call right there. Speaker on. A woman answered, clipped, professional, wide awake despite the hour. Chen, what do you need? Laura, I've got a situation. Possible internal sabotage at a manufacturing company. Financial records compromised. Need a full forensic investigation. Yesterday. Budget? Chen looked at Ava. She nodded. Whatever it takes, Chen said. I can have a team there Monday morning, but I need complete access. Servers, personnel files, financial systems, everything. You'll have it? And I need a point person, someone with authority who can make decisions without running to a committee every 5 minutes. That would be Ava Caldwell. She's the CEO. Put her on. Chen handed Ava his phone. Ms. Caldwell, Laura said, I'm going to ask you a direct question and I need a direct answer. Are you prepared for what we might find? What do you mean? I mean, sometimes these investigations uncover things the client doesn't want to know. Affairs, embezzlement, fraud. Are you prepared to act on whatever we discover, even if it's someone you trust? Ava thought about her father, about loyalty and blind spots and all the ways trust could be weaponized. Yes, she said, find the truth. Whatever it is. Then we'll see you Monday at 8 a.m. The call ended. Chen took his phone back. Laura Hendricks, he said. Best forensic investigator I've ever met. Also the most ruthless. If someone did this, she'll find them. And if no one did? Ava asked. If this really is just a series of unfortunate errors, then we've wasted a lot of money for peace of mind. Chen stood up. I'm going home. You two should too. It's late. I have work to finish, Hartwick said. It can wait. Go home, Gerald. Kiss your wife. Remember what you're fighting for. After Chen left, Ava and Hartwick sat in silence for a minute. Do you really think someone did this deliberately? Hartwick asked. I don't know. Part of me hopes it was just incompetence. At least that's fixable. And if it wasn't, then we have a much bigger problem than bad spreadsheets. Ava didn't go home. She went back to her office, made a pot of coffee, and started going through personnel files. If someone had sabotaged the company, they had to have motive, means, and opportunity. The means was clear: access to the financial systems. Opportunity was the middle of the night when no one was watching. But motive? That was harder. She pulled up the old restructuring proposal her father had drafted. 15% workforce reduction, focused on middle management and administrative roles. 212 names on the list. She started reading. Most were people she barely knew. Mid-level managers in departments she rarely interacted with. A few were familiar, people who'd been with the company for decades, who'd worked alongside her father. One name jumped out: David Kwan. David was on the board now, had been for 2 years. But before that, he'd been VP of Finance, reporting directly to her father. And he'd been on the restructuring list. Ava pulled his employment file, joined the company in 2001, steady promotions, strong performance reviews. Then in 2022, a note from her father. David's good with numbers, but struggles with strategic thinking. Consider lateral move to advisory role. A lateral move. Corporate speak for demotion. 2 months later, her father died. Ava took over. One of her first acts was appointing David to the board, a gesture of respect she'd thought at the time, honoring her father's old team. But what if David had seen it differently? What if he'd seen it as a consolation prize after being passed over for CFO? Ava opened a new search, cross-referencing David's access logs with the dates of the formula changes. He'd logged into the financial system remotely on August 11th at 11:34 p.m., stayed on for 47 minutes. The formula was added at 3:47 a.m. on August 12th. Different time, different user ID. But still, Ava picked up her phone, then set it down. This was insane. She was investigating a board member based on nothing but a timestamp and her own paranoia. And yet, she called Liam instead. He answered on the third ring, voice thick with sleep. "Hello, it's Ava. I'm sorry. I know it's late. It's fine. What's wrong?" "I need to ask you something. When you found that first error, had you noticed anything else? Any other numbers that looked off?" She heard rustling, pictured him sitting up in bed. "I mean, there were a few things that seemed weird. Nothing as obvious as the asset flip, but small inconsistencies." "Like what?" "Tax calculations that didn't quite match the revenue. Depreciation rates that seemed high. I figured I was wrong, though. That's not really my area." "Can you come in tomorrow? Early?" "How early?" 6 a.m.? "Ava, it's Saturday." "I know. I'll buy you breakfast." Liam sighed. "Emma has soccer at 9. I'll have you out by 8:30. I promise." "Fine. But if I miss her game, you're explaining to a 6-year-old why work is more important than watching her score goals." "Deal." She hung up, went back to the personnel files. By 3 a.m., she had a list of 12 people who'd had access to the financial systems during the relevant time periods. David Kwan was on it. So were 2 other board members. Hartwick, 3 analysts from finance, and 5 IT administrators. Her eyes were burning. The coffee had gone cold hours ago. She stood up, stretched, walked to the window. Chicago sprawled out below her, lights marking the grid of streets, the dark ribbon of the river cutting through the city. Somewhere down there, people were sleeping in their beds, unaware that the company employing them might be eating itself from the inside. Or maybe she was wrong. Maybe this was all just exhaustion and stress making her see conspiracies where there was only chaos. Her phone buzzed, text from her mother. "Can't sleep thinking about you. Call me if you need to talk." Ava almost called, almost broke down and admitted she was scared and lost and had no idea what she was doing. Instead, she typed back, "I'm okay. Get some rest. Love you." The lie tasted bitter. She must have dozed off at her desk because the next thing she knew, someone was knocking on her door and pale light was filtering through the windows. "Come in," she croaked. Liam entered carrying 2 cups of coffee and a bag that smelled like bacon. "You look terrible," he said. "Thanks. You're a real confidence booster." "I'm honest. There's a difference." He set the coffee and food on her desk. "Did you sleep here?" "Apparently." "When was the last time you went home?" Ava had to think about it. "Tuesday?" Ava. "I know, it's fine." "It's not fine. You're going to burn out." "I'll burn out after we figure out if someone's actively trying to destroy my company." Liam sat down. "Is that what you think is happening?" She explained what Patterson's team had found. The additional errors, all favoring pessimism. The suspicious timing of the formula changes. The access logs. Liam listened, eating a breakfast sandwich while she talked. "So you think it's deliberate?" he said when she finished. "I think it's suspicious enough to investigate." "Who's on your suspect list?" 12 people, including 3 board members. That's a short list for a company this size. Those are just the people with direct access. If someone used a compromised password or social engineered their way in, the list gets a lot longer. Liam pulled out his phone. "Can I see the original error, the asset valuation flip?" Ava pulled it up on her computer, turned the screen so he could see. He studied it for a long minute. "This formula, the one that flips positive to negative above a certain threshold. What about it?" "What's the threshold value?" Ava checked. 200 million. And the asset was valued at $214 million. Right, just above the threshold. But 3 months earlier, in Q2, it was valued at $189 million, below the threshold. So whoever set this up knew the asset value was going to cross that line. They knew it would trigger the formula. Liam looked up at her. "That's not random. That's planned." Ava felt ice in her stomach. How would they know what the Q3 valuation would be? They'd have to be involved in the valuation process, or have access to preliminary numbers before the final report. That narrows the suspect pool. To who? Finance team, senior analysts, anyone involved in quarterly reporting. Ava pulled up another file. "Let me cross-reference who had access to preliminary Q3 data." It took 20 minutes. When she was done, the list was down to 7 names. David Kwan wasn't on it. "Hell," Ava muttered. "What?" "I was so sure it was him." "Why?" "Because he had motive. My father was going to demote him, and he had opportunity. He was logged into the system the night before the formula was added." "But not the knowledge of the Q3 numbers?" "No. He left finance 2 years ago. He wouldn't have seen preliminary valuations." Liam leaned over, looked at the list on her screen. "Who's Stephen Park?" "Senior analyst in finance. Been with the company 8 years. Says here he was logged in August 11th at 11:52 p.m. Accessed the asset valuation module." "That's not unusual. Analysts work late all the time." "At midnight on a Sunday?" Ava pulled Stephen's employment file. Clean record, good performance reviews, no disciplinary issues, nothing that stood out. "What am I missing?" she said, more to herself than Liam. "Can I see his personnel file?" She turned the screen. Liam scrolled through it, stopped on a page. "Here, emergency contact lists his wife, Jennifer Park, and a note that she's employed by Sterling Bank." "The bank that's our biggest creditor." "Yeah." They looked at each other. "That could be nothing," Ava said. "Lots of people are married to people in finance." "True, but it's worth checking." Ava pulled up Jennifer Park's information. Senior Vice President at Sterling. Commercial Lending Division, started there in 2019. She handled Caldwell Industries' credit line. "Oh no," Ava said softly. "What?" If Stephen knew the company was going to file for bankruptcy before it was public, and he told his wife, and she adjusted Sterling's position based on insider information, that's securities fraud. That's worse than fraud. That's... Ava stopped. Thought. Wait, Sterling was pushing for bankruptcy. They were the most aggressive creditor. What if they weren't just reacting to our financial problems? What if they were creating them? Why would they do that? Because a bankruptcy filing would trigger certain clauses in our credit agreement, would let them call the loan immediately, force a liquidation. Sterling could buy our assets at pennies on the dollar, then resell them. Liam whistled softly. That's a hell of an accusation. I know. Do you have proof? Not yet, but I know someone who might be able to find it. She called Laura Hendricks. It went straight to voicemail. Laura, it's Ava Caldwell. I have a name for you. Stephen Park, senior analyst in my finance department. His wife works for Sterling Bank. I think there might be a connection there. Call me back. She hung up, checked her watch. 7:45. You need to go, she told Liam. Emma's game. You sure? Go, be a dad. I'll call you if anything breaks. After he left, Ava sat alone in her office, staring at Stephen Park's employee photo on her screen. He looked normal. Mid-30s, friendly smile, nothing that screamed corporate saboteur. But then they never did. Her phone rang. Laura Hendricks. "Tell me everything you know about Stephen Park," Laura said without preamble. Ava did. When she finished, Laura was quiet for a long moment. "I'm moving our timeline up," Laura said finally. "My team will be there in 2 hours. I want full access to Park's computer, his phone records, his email, everything. It's Saturday. He won't be in the office." "Good. That makes it easier. And Ava? Don't contact him. Don't warn him. Don't give him any indication we're looking at him." "Understood." "One more thing. If we find what I think we're going to find, this becomes a criminal matter. Are you prepared for that? You mean, am I prepared to send an employee to prison?" "Yes." Ava thought about her father, about trust and betrayal and all the ways people could smile to your face while stabbing you in the back. "If he did this," Ava said, "then yes, I'm prepared." Laura's team arrived at 9:30, 4 people in suits carrying laptop bags and boxes of equipment. Laura herself was younger than Ava expected, maybe 45, with sharp eyes and the kind of focused intensity that made you want to stand up straighter. "Where's Park's office?" Laura asked. Hartwick, who'd come in when Ava called him, led them to the finance department. Stephen's cubicle was in the corner, neat and organized, with photos of his wife on the desk. Laura's team went through it like archaeologists at a dig site, methodical, thorough. Nothing was too small to document. Ava watched from the doorway. "This is going to take a while," Laura said. "You should go do something else. We'll call you if we find anything." "I want to stay." "You'll be bored." "I'll risk it." Laura shrugged. "Suit yourself." Ava found a chair in an empty conference room and sat down. Pulled out her phone. No messages. No emergencies. For the first time in days, no one needed her immediate attention. It felt wrong. She called her mother. "Hi, sweetheart, how are you?" "I'm okay, dealing with some stuff." "Want to talk about it?" "Not yet, maybe later." "I'm here when you're ready. I was thinking of staying in Chicago a few more days, if that's okay." "You don't have to do that." "I know, but I want to. I've missed too much already." Ava felt her throat tighten. "Thanks, Mom." "Have you eaten today?" "Yes, Liam brought me breakfast." "The janitor?" "He has a name." "I know, I'm just teasing. He sounds nice." "He is nice. He's probably the only reason this company still exists." "Then I'd like to meet him sometime." "I'll arrange it." They talked for another 10 minutes about nothing important. When Ava hung up, she felt steadier. Melissa called next. "I'm bored. Want to grab lunch?" "I can't. I'm in the middle of something." "Work thing or crisis thing?" "Both." "Do you need help?" "Not yet. Maybe soon." "I'm around if you do. Jake took the kids to his mom's, so I've got the whole day free." "I'll let you know." At noon, Laura appeared in the doorway of the conference room. "We found something," she said. Ava stood up. "What?" "Come see." In Stephen's cubicle, one of Laura's analysts had his computer hooked up to their equipment. Lines of code scrolled across the screen. "He was careful," the analyst said. "Deleted his emails, cleared his browser history, wiped his local drives. But he forgot about the backup server." "What did you find?" Ava asked. The analyst pulled up an email thread. It was between Stephen and someone with the email address j.park.sterling@gmail.com. Jennifer Park, his wife. The emails were coded but not well, references to the project and timing and when the numbers come through. One email, dated August 10th, was more direct. "Everything's set. Formula goes live tonight. Should trigger in Q3. After that, it's just a matter of waiting." Reply from Jennifer. "Perfect. I'll make sure we're positioned correctly. This is going to work." Ava felt sick. "There's more," Laura said. She nodded to another analyst who pulled up bank records. "Stephen Park opened a new offshore account 3 months ago," the analyst explained. "He's received 4 wire transfers totaling $850,000. The transfers came from a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands." "Who owns the shell company?" Ava asked. "Still tracing that, but the timing matches up with key moments in your financial crisis. First transfer came right after the Q2 earnings miss, second after the preliminary Q3 numbers, third after the bankruptcy announcement. He was being paid to sabotage us." "Looks that way." Laura pulled Ava aside. This is enough for criminal charges. Securities fraud, wire fraud, possibly conspiracy, but we need to move carefully. If Stephen realizes we're onto him, he could flee or destroy more evidence. What do you recommend? We coordinate with the FBI and the SEC, build an airtight case. Then we arrest him Monday morning when he comes to work. What about Jennifer, his wife? Her too. If she was trading on insider information, she's just as guilty. Ava thought about Sterling Bank, about Victoria Strand sitting across the table, demanding accountability, all while her own employee was orchestrating the crisis. Do it, Ava said. Whatever you need, you have my full cooperation. Laura made the calls right there. Ava listened to her explain the situation to federal investigators, laying out the evidence in clinical detail. When Laura hung up, she said, "They're opening a formal investigation. They'll want to interview you, probably sometime next week." Fine. And Ava, this is going to get messy. When word gets out that one of your employees was paid to tank the company, the media is going to have a field day. Let them. At least it's the truth. The truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it just makes everything more complicated. Ava thought about that. About Liam finding the first error. About every revelation since then, each one peeling back another layer of deception. I'll take complicated over ignorant, she said. By the time Ava left the office that night, it was past 9. She drove home in a daze, her mind churning through everything that had happened. Someone had deliberately tried to destroy her company, had corrupted the numbers, manipulated the reports, all to force a bankruptcy that would benefit Sterling Bank. And she'd almost let it happen. If Liam hadn't spoken up, if he'd just shrugged and gone about his work, the company would be gone, liquidated, sold off piece by piece, all because she'd trusted the wrong people. Her apartment felt emptier than usual when she walked in. She dropped her bag, kicked off her shoes, poured herself a drink she didn't really want. Her phone buzzed. Text from Liam. "Emma scored 2 goals, just thought you'd want to know." Ava smiled, typed back. "Tell her congratulations from me. She says you should come to her next game. I told her you're probably too busy." "When is it?" "Next Saturday? 9 a.m. at Humboldt Park. I'll be there." "Really? Really?" I need to remember what normal people do on weekends. We kick balls around and eat orange slices. It's very glamorous. Sounds perfect. She set down her phone, finished her drink, stood at the window looking out at the city. Monday, Stephen Park would be arrested. The news would break. The media would descend again, this time with a different story. Not incompetence. Sabotage. And somewhere in all of it, Ava would have to figure out how to rebuild a company that had been poisoned from within. But tonight, just for tonight, she let herself feel something other than despair. She felt angry. Angry at Stephen for betraying them. Angry at Sterling for manipulating the situation. Angry at herself for not seeing it sooner. But underneath the anger, something else. Relief. Because now she knew. The enemy had a name. The problem had a source. And problems with sources could be fixed. Her phone rang. Marcus Chen. "I heard from Laura," he said. "Is it true?" "Yes." "Christ, Sterling's going to lose their minds when this comes out." "Good, let them." "The board's going to want an emergency meeting." "Schedule it for Sunday. I want everyone in the room when we explain what happened. Some of them aren't going to believe it. Then they can read the evidence." Laura documented everything. Chen was quiet for a moment. "You know this changes everything, right? The whole bankruptcy narrative, the incompetence angle, all of it. This becomes a story about corporate espionage and criminal conspiracy." "I know. It's going to be a circus. It already is a circus, Marcus. At least now we know who's running it." After they hung up, Ava took a shower, put on clean clothes for the first time in days, and fell into bed. She slept for 10 hours straight. When she woke up Sunday morning, the sun was streaming through her windows and her phone was buzzing with messages. Board members demanding information, reporters asking for comment, lawyers offering to represent her in the inevitable lawsuits. She ignored all of them, made coffee, sat on her couch, and just breathed. At 2 p.m., she walked into the board meeting ready for war. The conference room felt different this time. Same table, same view of the river, same 12 faces. But the energy had shifted from panic to something harder, sharper. Everyone had read Laura's preliminary report. Everyone knew what was coming. Ava stood at the head of the table and didn't sit down. Stephen Park will be arrested tomorrow morning, she said. The FBI and SEC are coordinating. His wife Jennifer will be arrested simultaneously at Sterling Bank. Laura Hendrick's team has documented evidence of securities fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit corporate sabotage. Jennifer Walsh leaned forward. How certain are we about this? Completely certain. We have emails, bank records, access logs. Stephen was paid $850,000 to manipulate our financial reports. His wife used that insider information to position Sterling for a profitable liquidation. Sterling's going to claim they had no knowledge of Jennifer's activities, said Robert Tillman. Of course they will, Marcus Chen said. And they might be telling the truth. But it doesn't matter. Their employee committed fraud using information she gained through her position. They're liable. This is going to be a legal nightmare, Walsh said. It already is, Ava replied, but at least now we understand what happened. We weren't incompetent. We were sabotaged. David Kwan spoke up for the first time. What about the other employees, the ones who worked with Stephen? How do we know they weren't involved? Laura's team is investigating everyone who had access to the compromised systems. So far, Stephen appears to have acted alone on our end. Jennifer had help at Sterling. We're still tracing those connections. And the shell company that paid him? Still working on that. The money was routed through 3 different jurisdictions, but we'll find the source. The room was quiet for a moment. Chen cleared his throat. We need to talk about what this means for the company going forward. The bankruptcy withdrawal is going to look very different in light of this information. It should, Ava said. We filed based on fraudulent data. That's not a mistake, that's a crime. The media is going to have questions, Walsh said. Why didn't we catch this sooner? Why did it take a janitor to notice what our entire finance department missed? Because our finance department wasn't looking for sabotage, Ava said. They were looking for errors. There's a difference. That's not going to satisfy the press. I don't care about satisfying the press. I care about making sure this never happens again. She pulled out a document, slid copies across the table. This is a proposal for a complete restructuring of our financial oversight. Independent verification on all major reports. Dual authentication for system access. Mandatory rotation of auditing firms every 3 years. And most importantly, an employee oversight committee with real authority to investigate irregularities. Who's on this committee? Tillman asked. Representatives from every level of the company, floor workers, middle management, senior executives, selected by their peers, not appointed by me. That's unusual. So is getting sabotaged by your own analyst. We need unusual solutions. Walsh was reading through the proposal. This is going to slow down our reporting process significantly. Good. Fast and wrong is worse than slow and right. It's also going to cost money we don't have. We'll find it, or we'll explain to our creditors why we need it, but this is non-negotiable. Chen looked around the table. All in favor? The vote was unanimous this time. After the meeting, Chen pulled Ava aside in the hallway. You handled that well, he said. Did I? I felt like I was barely holding it together. That's leadership. Nobody has it all figured out. The good ones just hide it better. I'm not hiding anything anymore. I'm done with that. I can tell. Chen studied her face. Your father used to do this thing where he'd bottle everything up until he exploded. Usually at the worst possible moment. You're not doing that. Because I learned from watching him. Some lessons stick. He'd be proud of you, not because you're perfect, because you're learning. Ava felt her eyes burn. I miss him. I know, so do I. Monday morning came cold and gray. Ava was at the office by 6, watching from her window as FBI vehicles pulled into the parking garage. She couldn't see them arrest Stephen, but she knew the moment it happened because her phone started buzzing with alerts. The news broke at 6:47 a.m. By 7, it was everywhere. Caldwell Industries analyst arrested for corporate sabotage. FBI charges employee with securities fraud in bankruptcy scheme. Sterling Bank 5P implicated in financial manipulation plot. Ava's phone rang. She ignored it. It rang again and again. She turned it off. Melissa appeared in her doorway at 7:30. The lobby is full of reporters. Let security handle them. They're asking for you specifically. Tell them I'll make a statement at 9. What are you going to say? The truth. At 9 a.m., Ava walked down to the lobby. The cameras were already rolling when she stepped up to the makeshift podium security had set up. She didn't have notes this time. Didn't need them. "Good morning," she said. As you've probably heard, the FBI arrested Stephen Park, a senior analyst in our finance department, early this morning. He's been charged with securities fraud and conspiracy. His wife, Jennifer Park, a vice president at Sterling Bank, was also arrested on related charges. A reporter shouted a question. Ava held up a hand. "I'll take questions in a minute. First, I want to explain what happened. For the past 6 months, Stephen Park deliberately manipulated our financial reports to make the company appear in worse condition than it actually was. He corrupted formulas, falsified data, and systematically undermined our financial position. He was paid $850,000 to do this by parties we're still identifying. His wife used the insider information he provided to position Sterling Bank for a profitable outcome in the event of our bankruptcy." Another shout from the crowd. Ava kept going. "This manipulation led directly to our bankruptcy filing last week. The numbers we based that decision on were wrong. Not because of incompetence, though we certainly had oversight failures, but because someone with access to our systems was actively sabotaging us. That person has now been arrested. We are cooperating fully with federal investigators to identify everyone involved in this scheme." She paused, looked directly at the cameras. "I also want to address something else. When we discovered the first error in our reports, it wasn't found by our finance team. It wasn't found by our external auditors. It was found by Liam Brooks, a facilities maintenance worker who noticed something didn't add up and had the courage to speak up. That's inexcusable. Not that he found it, that's admirable. But that our systems were so broken that only someone outside the process could see what was wrong." A woman in the front row raised her hand. "Ms. Caldwell, does this mean the company is no longer in financial trouble?" "No," Ava said bluntly. "We're still in crisis. The sabotage made things look worse than they were, but we still have serious problems. We're still operating at a loss. We still have massive debt. But we have time now, and we have the truth. That's more than we had a week ago." "What about Sterling Bank? Are you filing a lawsuit?" "Yes. We're pursuing all available legal remedies against Sterling and anyone else involved in this scheme." "How much money do you expect to recover?" "I have no idea. That's not why we're suing. We're suing because what they did was wrong. The money is secondary. Some analysts are saying this proves Caldwell Industries has inadequate internal controls. How do you respond?" "They're right," Ava said. "Our controls were inadequate. That's why we're implementing a complete overhaul of our financial oversight systems. That's why we're creating an independent employee oversight committee. That's why we're changing everything about how we operate, because this can't happen again." The questions kept coming. Ava answered them for 40 minutes until her voice was hoarse and the reporters had exhausted their angles. When she finally escaped back upstairs, Hartwick was waiting. "Sterling just released a statement," he said. "They're claiming Jennifer Park acted alone without the bank's knowledge or approval. They've placed her supervisor on administrative leave and launched an internal investigation." "Of course they have. Self-preservation 101. They're also calling our lawsuit baseless and threatening to countersue for defamation." Let them try. Ava's phone, which she'd turned back on, rang. Laura Hendricks. "We traced the shell company," Laura said. "It's owned by a private equity firm called Apex Holdings. They specialize in distressed asset acquisition." "Never heard of them." "Most people haven't. They're very quiet. But they've made a fortune buying up bankrupt companies, stripping them for parts, and reselling the pieces. So they paid Stephen to tank us so they could buy us cheap." "Exactly. And it almost worked. If you'd gone through with the bankruptcy, Apex would have been first in line to acquire your assets at liquidation prices." "Who owns Apex?" "That's where it gets interesting. The majority shareholder is a man named Richard Voss, former investment banker, and he used to work at Sterling." Ava felt the pieces clicking together. So Sterling employees knew about this from the beginning. At minimum, there was a connection. Whether Sterling as an institution was involved, we're still investigating, but the links are there. "Can you prove it?" "We're building the case, but yes, I think we can." After Laura hung up, Ava sat at her desk and tried to process it all. The sabotage, the arrests, the conspiracy that had almost destroyed everything. Her father's watch read 10:23 a.m. She wondered what he would have done in her position, probably something decisive and dramatic, probably something that would have made headlines. But Ava wasn't her father. She didn't want headlines. She wanted justice. And more than that, she wanted to make sure the company survived long enough to deserve it. The next few days blurred together in a chaos of lawyers, investigators, and emergency meetings. Sterling officially severed ties with Jennifer Park and issued groveling apologies. Apex Holdings denied everything. The FBI expanded their investigation. And through it all, the company kept operating. Production lines kept running. Orders kept shipping. Employees kept showing up, uncertain about the future but willing to fight for it. On Wednesday, Ava held the first meeting of the Employee Oversight Committee. 12 people sat around the table, 3 from the factory floor, 4 from middle management, 3 from administration, and Liam and 1 other senior executive. I want to be clear about something, Ava said. This committee has real authority. You're not here to rubber stamp my decisions. You're here to challenge them, to ask hard questions, to tell me when something doesn't look right, even if it makes you look bad. This was from Teresa Chen, one of the factory workers. Especially then. What if we find something you don't want to know about? Then you report it anyway. That's the job. Frank Delgado, the union president, was one of the members. He'd been quiet until now. I was wrong about you, he said suddenly. When all this started, I thought you were running some kind of scam. I accused you of manipulating the bankruptcy to scare us. I was wrong. You weren't entirely wrong, Ava said. Someone was manipulating things. You were just pointing the finger at the wrong person. Still, I should have given you the benefit of the doubt. No, you shouldn't have. Doubt is healthy. Blind trust is what got us into this mess. The committee met for 3 hours, going through the new oversight protocols, establishing reporting procedures, setting up the systems that would, hopefully, prevent another Stephen Park from nearly destroying the company. When it was over, Liam walked out with Ava. That went better than I expected, he said. You mean people didn't throw things at me? Low bar, but sure. They rode the elevator down together. I'm still coming to Emma's game on Saturday, Ava said. You don't have to. I know you're busy. I want to. I need to remember what life outside this building looks like. Fair warning, 6-year-old soccer is chaos. Nobody knows the rules and half the kids spend the game picking dandelions. Sounds perfect. Saturday morning was crisp and bright. Ava showed up at Humboldt Park at 8:45 wearing jeans and a sweater, feeling profoundly out of place. Liam spotted her from across the field and waved. Emma was warming up with her team, all of them wearing bright orange jerseys. You made it, Liam said. I made it. Which one is Emma? Number 7, the one doing cartwheels instead of stretching. Ava watched the little girl tumble across the grass, laughing. She looks like you. Poor kid. I meant that as a compliment. The game started. It was exactly as chaotic as Liam had promised. Kids running in wrong directions, parents shouting encouragement, a general sense that nobody really knew what was happening, but everyone was having fun anyway. Emma scored in the second half, a messy goal that bounced off 3 different kids before crossing the line. She ran to the sideline, grinning. Did you see? Did you see? I saw, Liam said. Great job, kiddo. Emma looked at Ava. You're the lady from my dad's work. That's me. Dad says you're really important. Your dad's nicer than he needs to be. He says you listened when other people wouldn't. That's important. Ava felt something catch in her throat. Your dad's pretty smart. I know. Emma ran back onto the field. Ava and Liam stood on the sideline watching. She's great, Ava said. She's the best thing I ever did. Only thing that really matters, honestly. That must be nice. Having something that matters that much. Liam glanced at her. The company matters to you. It's not the same. A company is just numbers and buildings and processes. Emma's a person. She's real. The 14,000 people who work for you are real too. You're fighting for them just as hard as I fight for Emma. Ava hadn't thought about it that way. Maybe. Not maybe. Definitely. You could have walked away from all this. Nobody would have blamed you. But you stayed because those people matter to you. That's the same thing I do for Emma, just on a different scale. They watched the game in comfortable silence. When it was over, Emma's team lost 4-3, but nobody seemed to care. The kids got juice boxes and orange slices. Parents packed up their chairs and coolers. "You want to grab breakfast?" Liam asked. "There's a diner near here that makes great pancakes." "I'd like that." They went to a place called Rosie's, a cramped diner with red vinyl booths and a menu that hadn't changed since 1987. Emma ordered chocolate chip pancakes. Liam got coffee and eggs. Ava ordered waffles and felt her phone buzz in her pocket. She ignored it. "You can check that," Liam said. "I won't be offended. It can wait." They ate and talked about normal things. Emma's school, Liam's plans to fix the leaky faucet in his apartment, the neighbor's cat that kept sneaking onto their fire escape. Not a word about bankruptcies or sabotage or FBI investigations. It was the most normal hour Ava had experienced in months. When they were done, Emma ran off to look at the ancient jukebox in the corner. Liam turned serious. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. What happens now with the company, I mean, after all this settles down?" "Honestly, I don't know. We're still in trouble. The sabotage explains some of our problems, but not all of them. We still need to restructure, still need to find a way to profitability." "You think you can do it?" "I think I have to try. For all those people you mentioned, for my father, for myself." "That's not really an answer. It's the only one I have." Liam nodded. "Fair enough." By mid-November, things had settled into a new rhythm. Stephen Park pled guilty to avoid trial. Jennifer Park was still fighting the charges. Sterling Bank paid a $50 million settlement to avoid a protracted lawsuit. Apex Holdings was under investigation by 3 different federal agencies. The company's financial picture was clearer now, still difficult, but manageable. With the corrected numbers and the settlement money, they had breathing room. Not much, but enough. Ava implemented the new oversight systems, hired an independent auditing firm, established the employee committee as a permanent fixture, changed passwords and protocols and everything else Laura recommended. And slowly, painfully, the company started to stabilize. On a Tuesday in early December, Ava was in her office when Melissa knocked. "The Q4 preliminary numbers are in," she said. Ava braced herself. "How bad?" "Not bad. We're profitable. Barely, but still. First profitable quarter in 18 months. Ava stared at her. "You're sure?" Hartwick triple-checked. So did Patterson's replacement firm. "The numbers are real." For the first time since her father died, Ava let herself believe the company might actually survive. The board meeting that week was different, lighter. People smiled. The tension that had defined every gathering for months had eased. "We're not out of the woods," Ava said, "but we can see daylight." "That's more than we had in October," Chen said. "What's the plan for Q1?" Walsh asked. "Conservative growth. We're not taking big risks until we're on more solid footing, but we're also not cutting corners, quality over speed." Sounds like something your father would say. He usually knew what he was talking about. After the meeting, Ava walked down to the factory floor. She did this once a week now, wandering through the production areas, talking to workers, listening to their concerns. Today she found Teresa Chen at her station, assembling a precision component for a medical device. "How's it going?" Ava asked. "Good. We're ahead of schedule this week." "The oversight committee treating you okay?" "Yeah, Frank's still grumpy, but that's just Frank. We're getting things done." "Good. That's what I wanted to hear." Teresa set down her tools. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why do you do this? The walking around, I mean. You could just sit in your office and get reports." "Because reports don't tell you everything. They tell you what people want you to know. Walking around, talking to people, that tells me what's actually happening." "Your dad used to do this too." "I know. I used to think it was a waste of time, but he was right. You can't run a company from 42 floors up. You have to see it." "He'd be proud of you." Ava heard that a lot these days. She was starting to believe it might be true. That night, she had dinner with her mother at an Italian place downtown. They'd been doing this every week since her mother decided to stay in Chicago indefinitely. "So," her mother said over wine and pasta, "are you okay?" "I think so. For the first time in a long time, I actually think so." "The company's stable?" "Stable-ish. We're not dying anymore. That's progress." "And you? Not just the company. You." Ava thought about it. "I'm different than I was 6 months ago." "How so?" "I trust differently now. I question more." I don't assume people have the right answers just because they have fancy credentials. That's called wisdom. Feels more like paranoia. There's overlap. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. I'm proud of you, her mother said. I know I don't say it enough. But I am. Thanks, Mom. Your father would be too. Not because you saved the company, because you learned from the mistakes. He made mistakes too. You said that. Everyone does. The difference is what you do after. He doubled down, got stubborn, refused to admit when he was wrong. You adapted. That's harder. It doesn't feel harder. It feels like barely surviving. That's what growth feels like. Nobody tells you that. On a Friday in mid-December, Ava called Liam into her office. I wanted to talk to you about something, she said. He looked nervous. Is this about the oversight committee? Because I can step down if... No, it's about your job. Oh, I want to create a new position, Director of Institutional Integrity, someone whose job is to look for problems others miss, to question assumptions, to be the voice that says, wait, this doesn't add up. Okay, I want you to take it. Liam stared at her. Me? You're already doing the work. Might as well pay you for it. Ava, I'm a janitor. I barely graduated high school. I don't have the qualifications. You have the only qualification that matters. You pay attention, and you're not afraid to speak up. What about my current job? The night shift? You'd move to days. Normal hours, real salary, benefits, all of it. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Liam was quiet for a long moment. What about Emma? I've been on nights because it lets me be there for her during the day. We'll work around her schedule, flexible hours, work from home when you need to, whatever it takes. You've thought about this. I have. Because I need someone I can trust, and you're it. Liam rubbed his face. This is crazy. Probably, but the last few months have been crazy. Might as well embrace it. Okay, Liam said finally. Okay, I'll do it. They shook hands across the desk. One condition, Liam said. What's that? If I tell you something's wrong, you listen, even if you don't like it, even if it makes you look bad. Deal. Even if I'm wrong sometimes? Especially then. Being wrong means you're trying. That's all I ask. Christmas came quietly. Ava spent it with her mother, cooking too much food and watching old movies. It was the first Christmas since her father died that didn't feel like a funeral. On New Year's Eve, she stood in her apartment, looking out at the city. Fireworks were starting to pop in the distance, bright bursts against the dark sky. Her phone rang. Hartwick. Happy New Year, he said. Not midnight yet. Close enough. I wanted to tell you the January numbers are looking good, better than projected. Gerald, it's New Year's Eve. Go home to your wife. I am home. She's the one who told me to call you, said you'd want to know. Ava smiled. Tell her thank you. Will do. And Ava, this year is going to be better. I can feel it. I hope you're right. After he hung up, Ava poured herself a glass of champagne and went back to the window. At midnight, the city erupted in light and sound. She raised her glass to the skyline, to the company that had almost died, to the people who'd saved it, to her father, wherever he was, to New Year's and second chances and the strange, unlikely paths that led to both. 3 months later, on a Tuesday morning in March, Ava walked into the lobby of Caldwell Industries and stopped. Someone had hung a banner across the main entrance. 100 days incident-free financial reporting. It was silly, slightly absurd, the kind of thing factory floors did to celebrate safety milestones. But it made her smile. Liam was waiting by the elevator, holding 2 cups of coffee. Thought you might need this, he said, handing her one. Did you know about the banner? Frank's idea, the oversight committee voted on it. I was outvoted. It's ridiculous. I know. I love it. Love. They rode the elevator up together. Ava's calendar was packed. Meetings with creditors, a call with the new auditing firm, lunch with a potential investor. The work never stopped, but it felt different now. Not easier exactly. Just clearer. She knew what she was fighting for, knew who she could trust, knew that perfection wasn't the goal, survival was. Survival with integrity, survival with honesty, survival worth having. In her office, she found a note on her desk. Her mother's handwriting. Having lunch with Melissa today. Don't work too hard. Love, Mom. Ava tucked it in her drawer next to the photo of her father. Her phone buzzed. Text from Emma. Dad says you're important now. Does that mean you're too busy for my birthday party? Ava typed back. Never. When is it? Saturday. We're going to the aquarium and then pizza. You should come. I'll be there? Promise? Promise. She set down her phone and got to work. The company wasn't saved. Not completely. They still had years of rebuilding ahead. Still had debts to pay and systems to fix and trust to rebuild. But they had time now. And they had the truth. And sometimes, Ava was learning, that was enough to start with. Outside her window, the Chicago River reflected the morning sun, dark water glittering with light. The city moved on, indifferent to one company's near death and resurrection. But inside these walls, 14,000 people were showing up to work, building things, solving problems, trying. Because a janitor had noticed a number that didn't add up, because someone had chosen to speak instead of staying silent, because listening to the right voice at the right moment could change everything. Ava turned back to her computer and kept working. Not because it was easy, not because it was finished, but because it mattered. And in the end, that was the only reason that counted.